Hello, everyone. It is Monday, November 11th, 2019. Happy 11/11 to everyone, and thank you to all veterans on this Veterans Day. Well, I have gone down quite a rabbit hole and am looking at the full moon, the new moon in Sagittarius, and I have gone deeply into Trump's chart to see how he might be reacting to all of this because we do have a rather historical event happening right now. This is going to be a huge week. The full moon enters tomorrow, Tuesday, November 12th at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time. But at noon today, we will basically begin entering the full moon energetics, and that's because the sun and the moon will begin to discharge the degrees that will be present. They will be discharging the degrees of their location at the time of the new moon. All right, so this recording might be a little bit astrologically intensive, but in order to explain things, I'm going to kind of have to do it that way. And I will try to keep the jargon to a minimum. I think the best way to go through all of this is chronologically. So I'm going to look at today and how we move into the new moon and the energetics of this week, and basically a deeper look at the full moon and then what we have as we approach the new moon in Sagittarius and how all that is affecting Trump. Okay, so today, right now, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde. That degree is the Sabian symbol of a parrot listening and then repeating a conversation he has overheard. So, this is when information spreads under this energetic automatically. But it's happening while the Sun is conjunct Mercury, which rules communications. And Mercury is retrograde, so it's going back and reworking, bringing out information that didn't come out previously, that hasn't been released, in order to fully expose truth. So information will spread, and there's a lot of information happening. So the Sun is adding all of its power to Mercury. They're combining. Mercury's retrograde, reworking things, and this has been a particularly strong Mercury retrograde. So we see how much emphasis is on all of the news and information. The Earth is discharging. A new continent rises out of the ocean. So this could be a very big development today. Venus is at a widow's past, is brought to light. So this is all about exposure. Then, as I mentioned, at noon, the Sun and the Moon will move, and they'll move to 20 degrees of Scorpio for the Sun and 20 degrees of Taurus for the Moon. The Sun is at a woman drawing aside two dark curtains that closed the entrance to a sacred pathway, and that's the degree of the Sun for the full moon. So that's the light of the full light of the Sun and the Moon at its peak, adding all of that light attention to drawing aside two dark curtains to open a pathway, to open something up. The moon, the full moon, tomorrow is at 20 Taurus. Wisps of clouds like wings are streaming across the sky. So this energetic is very fast moving, clouds streaming across the sky. So things are driven almost as if they're under a divine power. They just whisk along. And this is when we get the notion or get the sense of what's on the wind. Okay, so we're getting a big picture with the full moon. We're getting a big overview of what's coming our way, right? Because things are happening fast, and we feel where things are going. Now, today, transiting Mars is going to move to 26 Libra, which is an eagle and a large white dove turning into each other. So this is about leadership and peace transforming and combining and coming together. Now, with this, Mars begins to sextile Trump's natal Mars. So when you have Mars aspects, when Mars in the sky is aspecting someone's Mars, this brings in anger and action. And if somebody is challenged or having difficulty in their lives moving forward, this can bring about a lot of depression. This isn't the case with Trump. He's an action-oriented person. His his own Mars is the symbol for daybreak. And he has Mars on his ascendant, so he's what we call Mars ascending or Mars rising. And the degree of his ascendant is an unsealed letter. So I would suspect that he is wanting to declassify more than anything. And I think he's going to begin to push that out in defense of everything that is being said, because he has a lot of, well, he has the information about who's been doing what, and he hasn't brought that out. But I think he's realizing that he has to, and it would look like the time is unlocking for him to do it, to unseal the letter, to break it loose. Also, Jupiter is opposing Trump's natal Vulcan, which is like volcanic, and it's energy and anger and when things blow up. So Jupiter is hitting that, so it's going to expand that Vulcan. So that's kind of like a volcano going on inside of him. This week, the Sun is going to conjunct his IC, the bottom of his chart. And the degree of the bottom of his chart is an X-ray photograph. So that is about transparency, seeing truth, seeing through the outer layers or things that have piled on top of things in order to obscure them. Also, Venus begins to transit his nodes, his north and south node, and his moon and his Uranus. And so he's probably going to be, he'll say things even more unexpectedly, but it would tend to move, everything moves in his favor with Venus transiting like that. And I expect him to drop information at any time. Now, on Friday, the Sun is going to be at 24 Scorpio, and this is crowds coming down the mountain to listen to one man. If you've been listening to Oracle Report or reading Oracle Report for a while, you know that we saw Trump activating under that energetic during his campaign. He's very good at rallying. Obviously, people flock to come and see him. And at the same time, right now, the black moon is discharging 22 Pisces, which is a man bringing down the new law from Mount Sinai. This is why we see such a push for this impeachment to change the regime and to bring in the new law, because the black moon is only going to discharge this degree for a little over a week, one time every 9 years. So basically what that would be for the cabal is using the power of the dark side, the shadow side, to implement a new system at the maximum of what you could do under that energetic. On Monday, on the 18th, the Sun is going to square Trump's Mars. Now remember, we're talking about how much Trump's Mars is being activated this week, beginning this week, and how that is driving a lot of energy and action. And remember, his Mars is the Sabian symbol of daybreak, of new. Now, on Monday, when the Sun squares his Mars, the Sun will be discharging a military band marches noisily through the streets. So this is big news. It's a big production. It's a lot of information and chatter, and can get very loud. So that's where we're heading. And then on Tuesday the 19th, next week, the Sun will move to 28 Scorpio, the King of the Fairies approaching his domain. This is a huge energetic. It's a very, very powerful energetic, and it is working right alongside every time a planet is activating that this year, this astrological year. It's reinforcing or reactivating the theme for this astrological year, which is fairies dancing in the setting sun. It's about the changeover, the beginning of the end of the archonic control systems and the New World Order, and moving into the beginning of the new experience. So we have those two working under the surface. And then on Thursday, on the 21st, the sun will square Trump's ascendant. And remember, his ascendant is an unsealed letter. So also that day, the sun will be at the last degree of Scorpio, which is about children in Halloween costumes playing pranks. And it's tricks and hijinks and dirty dealings. It's the last degree of Scorpio, and so it's the full spectrum of Scorpio energy. So, as I said, I expect him to drop very important and damaging information anytime, and I would suspect we would see that before Thursday the 21st. Now, looking at Mars transiting in the sky, between November 19th and November 24th, the Mars in the sky is going to oppose Uranus. And this is going to bring us a time of big surprises and changes and potential shocks. That's the 19th through the 24th. Mars exactly opposite Uranus. We know that Uranus is our friend, and so we know that the energy of Mars is going to be driving the alignment of Uranus to put things in a proper perspective. So Mars is in Trump's chart, and Mars in the sky are very, very active right now, and the Sun with Mercury bringing forth a lot of changes. Mercury retrograde is going to bring things up that didn't come up in the past. Now it's time for them to come out. At the full moon, which is Tuesday, November 12th, 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time, part of the energetic of the full moon, it will be to prepare us for the changes. So Mercury, which is conjunct the Sun, at the time, right now, as I mentioned, Mercury for the full moon will be at a path through the woods rich in autumn coloring. So this shows us signs, gives us guideposts, road signs. It's again the preparation for change, and we get a spiritual infusion from that. We're also having Neptune, highly spiritual Neptune, is at 16 Pisces, discharging in a quiet moment. A creative individual experiences the flow of inspiration. So all of this Mercury information, signposts, guidance, with all of this is directly working with Neptune to put things, to give us an inspiration, right? And to infuse us with a little more energy to finish out this cycle. Because this one has been intensive, and we knew it would be, because remember, the new moon at the time of the new moon in Scorpio was the Sabian symbol of a massive rocky shore resists the pounding of the sea. My mouth can't keep up with my brain. My brain goes too fast for my mouth. But with all of this happening, with the massive rocky shore, that was the establishment. And so it's basically like we the people are just pounding one after another in waves, just hitting that rocky shore, dismantling it to some degree. Okay, so this takes a lot of energy, and you might be feeling quite tired. Jupiter at the full moon is at 26 Sagittarius. It's 1 degree away from the galactic center. 26 Sagittarius is a flag bearer in battle. And Pluto, with the full moon, Pluto is moving to 22 degrees of Capricorn, a general accepting defeat gracefully, where Pluto has been toggling over for the past year. And we have Uranus conjunct the Chiron point. It's going to begin discharging that exact degree, the exact conjunction, and we know that the Chiron point degree for Taurus is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Uranus is working with that strong Chiron point energy to get us in place. So the full moon, what we could say, the takeaway from that is light entering to draw aside two dark curtains and to open up a pathway. I think of this Sabian symbol, which I really love. I really love this symbol. To me, it's almost like Toto in The Wizard of Oz pulling back the curtain on the wizard. And remember, things will be going fast with the wisps of clouds like wings streaming across the sky. So that might be a little bit hard on the head. We might have some headaches coming through with that, with things going so quickly. And of course, we'll have this cold snap coming through in the U.S. with this full moon. Now, Venus at the full moon is at 14 Sagittarius, the pyramids, and the Sphinx. So this is about markers in time and monuments, and traditional knowledge and values. Alrighty. Let's talk about the new moon in Sagittarius a little bit, since we're down deeply into the rabbit hole and going into the future here. Now, do you recall what the Sabian symbol for the new moon in Sagittarius is going to be? I mentioned it at the new moon in Scorpio. It's an old owl up in a tree. And this happens to be the degree of Trump's natal black moon. What is it about old owls in a tree? Well, they're very smart, they're very wise, and you might have a little bit of trouble getting to them, right? They may be very, very safe. At the new moon in Sagittarius, which is November 26th at 10:04 a.m. Eastern Time, the North Node will be in tight conjunction with Trump's natal Mercury. All right, so his black moon is being activated. That's an old owl up in the tree, which is 5 degrees of Sagittarius. The black moon in Sagittarius is the issue of truth. Now, we can say a lot about Trump, but it does seem that the truth is important to him. Now, I guess everyone could make an argument against that, depending on perspective. But he's really not known to lie, which makes him a target of the deep state, yes? So remember, at the next new moon, the new moon in Sagittarius, his Mars is still active. And Mars in the sky is going to be opposite his Uranus at the new moon. So he's going to be unpredictable. And with Uranus aligning at the Chiron point, we would say that what's meant to be will be. And at the same time, Jupiter is going to be sextiling Trump's natal part of fortune, while the ascendant and the part of fortune over New York City rises at the time of the new moon. So he's born in New York City. And for this new moon, that means that what's rising over the horizon is the ascendant and the part of fortune together. This bodes quite well. We will see him, I believe, become increasingly angry as the new moon approaches. Jupiter trine his ascendant, and his ascendant is an unsealed letter. The new moon will re-energize him, and while the sun is discharging for the new moon, a wise old owl in a tree, or an old owl up in a tree is the exact wording. The Earth will be at a Radical magazine displays a sensational front page. So you can see how these energetics are completely timely with what we have going on, and a lot of this is because the Illuminati use, and they know, they are expert in the energetics of the Sabian symbols and timing. So it isn't all easy street for Trump through November 25th. He is having Saturn square his Chiron, which tends to make us do the right thing, um, abide by our responsibilities. He just completed Saturn squaring his natal Jupiter, which is usually health. He came through that with no issues. He's obviously quite healthy. Jupiter will bring it out and expose it if one is not. And we have Jupiter trine his Mars again, as I said. He does have Venus aspecting until the new moon to help with what he's trying to do. On November 25th, the transiting black moon is going to enter his 8th house. So this means that he would be inclined to show all of the darkness. The Aries point falls in his 8th house, and it late in his 8th house, it rules his 9th house. His 9th house ruler is 22 Aries, which is 1 degree off of conjunction with the Aries point. 22 Aries is the gate to the garden of all fulfilled desires. So I do not anticipate that being a difficult transit for him. November 20th, this Friday, is probably going to be a big day for him. Okay, that's a very long explanation. I hope that gives you a little bit of a sense of where things are and where things are going, not just for the full moon, but where we're headed the rest of the month until we get to the Sagittarius new moon. And remember, in between now and then, we're going to have Jupiter conjunct the galactic center. And that's just heaven pouring down on us. All right, wise owls. That's the overview from inside the tree. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely day, and I'll see you next time.